Hey everyone, gonna make a quick banana nut bread here. Actually gonna turn these into jumbo muffins. So, I have 4 very ripe bananas in my bowl. I'm just gonna give them a chop and a smash. You can do this with a fork if you'd like, it's probably a little bit easier. I'm just doing it with my spatula. Get them good and smashed. These were very ripe bananas, as I said, so ones that were not black but starting to turn black, so past the speckly stage. And if you're someone who doesn't like bananas or who has a hard time with bananas, like some people say, you know, they taste bananas forever once they eat them, I encourage you to try bananas at a different stage in their ripening, because a lot of times, especially things like green bananas, people have a lot more trouble with a green banana, and that's because the green banana hasn't finished breaking down properly yet. I'm gonna grab a fork. So the green banana still has a lot of fiber and makes it harder to digest. So you will do things like burp more and have more gas. But if you wait until the banana has gotten more ripe and has developed its sugars better, your body will be able to digest it better. And if you're having any stomach upset like belly bug or food poisoning or just not really feeling right, bananas are great for helping get your gut back in order and settling your stomach. So don't count them out completely. All right, so that's what I'm looking for there. And like I said, that was 4 ripe bananas. To that, I'm going to add 2 cups of flour. Just regular all-purpose flour. Okay. Then I need 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. And I've probably mentioned it a million times, but I love these little changeable measuring scoops. They're amazing. 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. And make sure you measure your leveling agents very accurately. Then I need 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And it calls for cinnamon at this stage, but I'm going to be using apple butter instead of applesauce, where it calls for applesauce. So I'm not going to add cinnamon because that's already in there. So I'm just going to give these dry ingredients a little bit of a mix. The next thing I need to add are my 2 eggs. Oop, that one had a very fragile shell and just jumped right in the bowl. Surprised that one held together. All right, let me wash my hands real quick. Alright, I'm going to give this a little bit of a mix. You don't want to over mix this, you're just kind of getting things to start incorporating. Now, next thing I need is 1 cup of brown sugar. All right. And then the next step is 1/2 cup of applesauce in place of oil. So instead, I don't have applesauce in 1/2 cup amounts, but I do have some apple butter, so I'm just going to use apple butter instead. And that's going to replace my need for cinnamon, as I said. Okay. Then we're going to give this a mix. So this is not something you want to pull your mixer out for, because you will overmix this batter, and you don't want to do that. You just want to get all the dry spots wet, and you're not worried about lumps. Make sure I got everything down at the bottom. Okay, so at this stage you could add the nuts. It calls for 3/4 cups of walnuts or pecans, depending on your preference. I like walnuts just because that's the traditional for this, and I tend to be a traditional type person. But I'm not going to add the walnuts into this batter because I'm making this for people who don't like nuts. I do like nuts, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle some walnuts on top of mine. So I'm using this larger size muffin tin, and it's 6 of them in this. I'm going to spray this real quick with some baking spray. And then we're going to fill these up. So I'm going to fill them all the way up to the top. I'm not using any muffin liners just because I don't have any. If you have some for these larger muffin pans, then I'm sure they would be helpful. This is quite messy. My oven has finished preheating. Alright, let's see who needs a little bit more. So if you don't have these muffin tins, you can distribute it amongst the smaller muffins, or this is actually designed to be a loaf pan. So you can go ahead and put this right in your loaf pan just like you would any banana bread. do want to make sure that you clean up around the edges so that those don't burn and start smelling and make you think that your muffins are done when they actually aren't. All right, so I'm going to wash my hands real quick. These are going to go into the oven. I have the oven currently at 425, but I'm going to now drop the temperature down to 350 and put them in, and the rest of their time will be at 350. The reason that you jack the temperature up so high to begin with when you first put them in is I want them to have that domed bakery style top on them. That's what I'm looking for. So let me wash my hands real quick. And I almost forgot that I wanted to add walnuts on top of these. So I'm going to take some of these walnuts, and these are of course whole, well, walnut halves, so I need to break them up a little bit. And then I'm going to put them on top of half of these because I do like walnuts in my banana bread. And I should have chopped these up ahead of time, but didn't do it, so here we are. So anyways, I'm going to keep doing this and get these straight and get them in the oven. They should take around 20 minutes, but I'm going to keep an eye on them and I'll let you know. Here they are, fresh out of the oven. And you can see they got that nice domed top on them, a little bit crispy. These took right at 35 minutes. I think I probably could have gotten them out more at 33, 32 minutes. So just keep an eye on them once they get to the 30-minute mark. But I'm going to let them cool for just a couple minutes in the muffin tin, and then I'll get them out and let them cool on a rack.